welcome to a video just spending a couple of days with me. We're going to start out with some bread making, grain milling, just some homemaking, talking about being lifelong learners. We're going to talk about the cows. We're going to just spend the day with me today. So starting out the night before, anytime I make bread, the bread baking process starts the night before. So I am loving my grain mill. This is my milling station. I actually just shared a video with y'all of our home apothecary at this same area. Well, the home apothecary has moved because I needed this area for the milling station. So this is where I have been milling the grains. Now I'm actually milling hard red wheat here, and I think I've actually stated this wrong in a couple of videos before. When I talk about our family has not been eating modern grains, when I say modern grains, that more so means the modern processing of grains, because hard white wheat are actually technically modern grains. They aren't genetically modified, contrary to what we kind of may have been led to believe. Grains have not been genetically modified at all. They have crossbred naturally through nature. There have been some cross mating done by man, but mating and cross mating, hybridizing is not genetically modifying the actual grain. So when I said in past videos that our family has been off of modern wheat, I more so mean the modern processing of wheat. We have just started consuming whole grains, and I believe that consuming any whole grains, whether they are from today or they are ancient, I'm going to start experimenting with ancient grains soon. But right now I'm using just hard white wheat because they are the easiest to work with. So I just wanted to clarify that. I'm still learning the whole lingo for milling grains and wheat berries, but we are using hard red wheat here to make sandwich bread. So this is my sandwich bread, slightly tweaked from how I have a video 2 years ago probably on making sandwich bread. This is just slightly tweaked. I increased the amount of honey and added an egg to help with the softness of the bread, because sometimes when people switch from all-purpose flour to milling fresh grains, if you think about it, all-purpose flour is packed and dense. Every time it was shipped across in a truck, it was loaded from loading dock to loading dock in a box. That flour was packed down into that bag, that 5-pound bag, whatever size bag you were buying. Whereas when we freshly mill grains, as you can see here, this is like powdery fairy dust, I like to call it, because it literally goes everywhere. It'll be all over me probably in about 5 minutes as I'm making flour. It just is like a fine powdery mist. So it's not compacted at all. You can see how fluffy and soft it is. It is nowhere near the compactness of store-bought flour. So that does sometimes alter the ingredients. I found for the most part it's been 1-to-1. I've used about the same amount of flour in my sandwich bread recipe, but I did increase some of the liquid components to help with the softness of the bread to make it still a good sandwich loaf. So that's what I've been working with here, is altering some of my older sourdough recipes to freshly milled whole grain wheat. As I make sure these all are good, I will start including recipes down below in the description box for you guys. Back into all that. So this, you can see right now, the dough is very wet, and if I was doing my old sandwich bread recipe, I would have added flour here, but I've learned that with freshly milled wheat, when it is wet, let it set, is a phrase I learned from Sue Becker. So this is a very wet dough. I'm not going to add flour, and you'll see when I come back here, it's been about an hour. It's already more stretchy. It's already much more easy to work with. It's not as wet. That freshly milled flour has absorbed a lot of those liquid components, the water, the honey, the egg, and it's a lot easier to stretch and fold at this time. So I don't time my stretch and folds anymore. Actually, with my last sandwich bread loaf, I didn't even do stretch and folds, but it does help form the gluten. Contrary to what people might believe about bread, gluten is not actually found in the wheat. It's actually a substance that is formed in the bread making process. Stretchy strands, and then when the bread rises, that helps trap it in and helps it rise. And when the bread starts to rise, it's those gluten strands that hold the bread closed and allow the bread to rise. You get those nice air pockets in it. So this is not an artisan loaf. This is a sandwich loaf, but I do a few stretch and folds. I don't time them. I just, when I think about it in the kitchen, I come over here and do some stretch and folds. So it's probably about 8:30 or 9 at night at this point. So I'll just do a stretch and folds until I go to bed. It is in the winter time, so I can leave this sitting out on the counter until the morning, and then I'll come back and shape the loaves, let them rise another hour or two, and then bake them. This sandwich bread has been absolutely delicious. I've heard people talk about the flavor of freshly milled whole grains, especially hard red wheat, has a really nutty, rich flavor, and I just don't know how I could go back to store-bought flour at this point. It is so delicious. When people say that they start getting freshly milled flour and enjoy it, it's so delicious. So that was a quick clip of our breakfast the next morning after I finished getting the bread ready. My baby strapped in, I'm heading out to milk now. So while we milk, I want to talk a little bit about being a lifelong learner. So when I was a teacher, I had that career. I just kind of did the same thing every day. Of course, I had different adaptations I had to make for students, and I had to learn different ways to teach students, but for the most part I was doing the same thing every day. When I came home from that career and became a full-time homemaker, that was going to be very mundane, but that has been far from the case. I have become more of a learner since becoming home from that career than I ever was in college and in high school and through that career. This is an example here, milking. Our cow has been an adventure to milk. So we've started milking. I've shared milking videos in the past. Initially, I was milking by myself. Then my husband was milking with me. I had our most recent baby, and he is now milking with me at 6 months. So for a while there, my husband just did the milking, but this is now working wonderfully. So I've taken back over the milking, and it's just been a learning process. Continually, our cow will not let down her milk unless you let the calf latch first. So we've played around with pulling the calf at different times so that she'll be almost forced to let down. It's just been a lifelong learning process. We've researched this so much, and it's just taught me that in this homemaking, homesteading way of life, there is always something to learn. There is always something that has to be adapted. Now, I'll talk to y'all at the end of this video about breeding our cows. And when our cow calves again, I want to try to reteach her to let down without having the calf, because it is kind of a nuisance to pull around a very large calf, our heifer here, and try to let her latch, pull her back off and tie her up, then continue the milking. For a while, we were having to let her latch multiple times to get milk. It's just been a big adventure with these cows. So it's just reminded me that I am a lifelong learner, and it's fun to constantly be learning something new and something challenging. Milking with a baby on your back is not the easiest thing, but he enjoys it. He's now my little milking partner, and we enjoy our little mornings together. He just is so content, and that was a learning curve as well, learning to milk with a baby, because for a while when he was very little, I was like, I'm never gonna be able to milk with him, and I just was letting my husband. But I'm back in the milking now, and I'm really enjoying these mornings. This has been a really good transition for me to start milking and try to get our cow better at letting down. So we will see how this goes when she calves again. Again, I'll talk to y'all more about the calving process soon, but just learning to work with animals. I was not raised around animals like this, farm animals, besides just like household pets, dogs and cats. So learning farm animals has been a learning process for me, and it's been a fun challenge. And it also just models to my children, to continually learn something. And I think this is really going to go a long way as we start to get further into their homeschooling journey and teaching them that mom and dad are constantly learning something new, and that they will be excited to continually learn something new. Straining the milk here, we are getting just under a gallon because I'm not putting the calf on twice. If I was to put the calf on a second time to get another letdown, I could get more milk than this, but I'm really trying to teach our cow to let down without having the calf, and that's just been a whole adventure in itself. Again, constantly learning something new every day around here. So let's switch gears here. I'm gonna make some fennel ginger lemon tea for our homeschool time. This is a really nourishing, hormone balancing, just nutrient rich tea. It is just fennel, ginger, and lemon. Then honey for my children. I add a little bit of honey. I'm adding a splash of lemon to mine. This one is so good for hormone balancing in females. Now we are homeschooling. So as I said, I'm constantly modeling to my children learning something new. Milking a cow, learning different teas that are detoxifying for the body, that are healing for the body. Last week's video I shared about our home apothecary, how ways I have learned to naturally heal our body. So there's literally something I'm learning all the time, and my kids see that and they're interested in that. They're interested in learning with me, and it's been really fun to transition that into our homeschool, and we're able to talk about things together that we're learning, things that mama's learning, things that they are learning each day, learning about freshly milling grains. They are learning that alongside me. So you can see here the loaves are nice and puffy now and risen a little bit. Now we will cook them, and these loaves are delicious. 2 loaves twice a week right now, and that's perfect for our family, but I can see as I get older, this will definitely be increasing. But these loaves are delicious. I had some people ask if you can use sourdough with freshly milled flour, and you can. My sourdough starter, Greta, is thriving and happy and alive, being fed with freshly milled flour. Now, I don't use a certain type. I use soft white and hard red, and I just alternate whatever I'm cooking at that time. I feed my starter with that type of flour, freshly milled flour, and she is happy and thriving. So this was a hard red. I fed her with hard red wheat after I made this dough last night. So we are moving to dinner time. We have someone coming this evening to breed our cow. So we are doing artificial insemination this time. When we bred our cow last time, we did live cover, meaning we had a bull. We borrowed a bull from a friend and had him at our property for a couple of months to breed our cow. We really wanted to get Jersey in our herd, so we did not want a Jersey bull. If you know much about Jersey bulls, they can be a little bit mean, so we don't want that on our property right now around our children. We also don't have the fencing ready, so we are doing artificial insemination this time, and that is why I'm getting dinner ready now. I really like to get dinner ready around 2, 3, 4 every afternoon anyway, so I'm starting some roast. You saw me brown each side in that cast iron skillet. Now I'm getting some mashed potatoes ready. I've shared my mashed potato recipe several times in the past. It's just chopped potatoes, then I cover it with just a little bit of milk. This way you don't have to strain the potatoes at the end. I barely cover it with milk, let it simmer until the potatoes are fork tender. You don't want them mushy, but you want them tender where you can poke them with a fork. And then I will come back with my hand mixer and mash and blend them, kind of get them really nice and fluffy. So this is still pretty early. I don't typically like to make mashed potatoes earlier in the day, but we do have someone coming right around dinner time, about 5:30, 6 o'clock. So I need to have everything ready, so after the AI artificial insemination is over, we can come back in and eat. So I will just rewarm the potatoes really quickly on the oven top. The roast and the gravy will already be ready, and then we'll just serve it with a side of that delicious fresh whole grain sourdough sandwich bread. So for the roast, I just browned each side, and then I'm cooking in the Instant Pot. I covered it with water, cooking in the Instant Pot for about 45 minutes, and then let it just set. I found that if you are cooking roast in the Instant Pot, it's not my favorite way to cook roast, but it's the most convenient way to cook a roast. If you will cook it for the cook time and then let it set for another hour or 2. So that's why it's so good to do it so early in the day. It will get a lot more tender just sitting in that Instant Pot as that pressure comes back down. So now I'm putting it in my Extrema cookware. Extrema has another big sale coming up this weekend I wanted to tell y'all about. This is my VersaPan. I've used it probably 5 to 6 times a week since I got it. It's a wonderful pan. I've used it for casseroles. I've used it for sourdough skillet dishes. Here I'm using it to shred the roast, and then I'm going to put the roast back in the oven at about 250 just to let the ends of the roast get really crispy. I'm salting it. This pan is just so perfect from going from stovetop to oven. So I will link the information down below for Extrema's sale this weekend. They have periodic sales all the time, so I'll try to always remind y'all when they have sales going on. If you've been eyeing the Extrema cookware, I shared about it a couple videos back. I have this pan in the pipeline, and I hope to add to my collection soon. So check them out. They have a sale coming this weekend. Now I'm moving on to the gravy. We are about to head out to the barn. Baby is already in his toboggan, ready to get outside because it's very cold right now. I'm making the gravy directly in the Instant Pot liner. I just added some flour to the drippings from the roast, and then I will let that just sit, and we'll head out to the barn. Hopefully about to get one of our cows, maybe both of our cows, bred. Show y'all what that entails. This is Lila. She is our Easter calf that we had last year. She's just under a year old, and she is the one we're trying to get bred today. She is the one that is in. Should tell her here in just a minute. Okay, so if you don't know much about AI, this is artificial insemination. So we actually had an AI technician out back in the summer and the fall to breed our cow. This is our heifer you're seeing here. But we didn't think it worked because we thought she came into heat again. So to our surprise, she came out, did an ultrasound, and our cow was pregnant. We had no idea. Well,
that's a miracle.
That is a miracle for sure.
Yep, so baby's right there.
Can you tell, like, age?
She's probably 120 days, I would guess.
It would have been October. We really were doubting that the AI worked before, but she confirmed that she is pregnant. So that was really exciting. She is about 3 months along right now, 3-ish, 4-ish. Tried to do artificial insemination on our heifer. So basically they have to put one hand in the anus, feel the cervical rings, and then put the AI gun in the birth canal, and that's how they artificially inseminate. I didn't get a lot of footage here because I had to go actually hold her head to keep her still while she was doing this process. So, but that's the whole process. I'll let y'all know in a future video if it worked. Came in, I plated up dinner, rewarmed the potatoes slightly, rewarmed the roast with the gravy, had a delicious dinner. So I hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit of our day, some of the things I'm learning right now. Hopefully our heifer cow Lila is now bred. We'll know in a few weeks. We're so excited our cow Sunshine is bred, and I will talk to y'all in my next video.